afternoon and good evening, dear colleagues, and welcome to this first of a kind global town hall meeting organized by the UN Joint Staff Pension Fund. I am Serge Gass, Special Assistant to the Chief Executive of Pension Administration, and we have here with us today Rosemary McLean, Chief Executive of Pension Administration, and Pedro Guazo, representative of the Secretary General for the investments of the assets of the funds. Good morning, Rosemary. Good morning, Pedro.
Good morning, Serge.
So before we start our conversation, we are going to watch a short video. It will provide us with the basics on the fund and the pension plan. And it's going to last only 2 minutes, so please stay tuned. We're going to show this video.
The United Nations Joint Staff Pension Fund, or UNJSPF, was established in 1949 by the General Assembly of the United Nations to provide retirement, death, disability, and related benefits to staff of the United Nations and other member organizations of the fund. As at 1 January 2022, the fund had 25 member organizations and served more than 220,000 participants and beneficiaries worldwide. Most of the fund's staff are based in New York, USA, and in Geneva, Switzerland. It also has representative offices in Nairobi, Kenya, and Bangkok, Thailand. The UN Pension Fund is a defined benefit plan. This means pensions are calculated according to a formula and are payable for life and adjusted for cost of living increases, according to the regulations and rules of the fund. Deficits in funding are the responsibility of the member organizations in the fund. Participants, therefore, do not bear the investment and longevity risks associated with defined contribution plans. Another feature of the plan is that benefits are initially calculated in US dollars, the unit of account of the fund, but that benefit can be paid in a different currency in most countries of the world. The fund is now mature, and benefit payments can often exceed its contribution income annually. It uses a small part of its investment portfolio income to meet the difference to pay for pensions when required. The fund is in a well-funded actuarial position, as demonstrated by the results of the actuarial valuations completed over the last few years. Under the overall supervision of the UN General Assembly, the fund is administered by the tripartite UN Joint Staff Pension Board, the Chief Executive of Pension Administration, and a Staff Pension Committee for each member organization. The fund's pension administration is focused on modernizing and improving delivery of its services to its participants, beneficiaries, and the member organizations. Leveraging technology and digitalization are the cornerstones of the pension administration strategy. Most documents and forms can now be uploaded online in the fund's member self-service portal, and retirees and beneficiaries can complete their annual proof of life certificate of entitlement via a mobile application, while interfaces continue to further automate data transfer between member organizations and the fund. On the investment side, the Office of Investment Management manages a growing investment portfolio that amounted to $90 billion at the end of 2021. The fund's investments are governed by the criteria of safety, profitability, liquidity, and convertibility. In addition, the fund continues to strengthen its commitment to sustainable investing. The fund's goal is for its participants to retire with peace of mind after having served in the International Civil Service. This is the fund's contribution in support of the global missions of its member organizations. For more information, visit UNJSPF.org.
All right, so now it's time for our first question to Rosemary McLean, Chief Executive of Pension Administration. So, Rosemary, you have been in your position for more than 3 years. Can you tell us how pension administration is doing?
Thank you, Serge, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you today. Before I answer your specific question, Serge, I just wanted to emphasize a point that was made in the video, which is this is a defined benefit pension fund. It's not like a savings program or defined contribution plan. It's based on a predetermined formula, and it's really important employee benefit. So it's our job to make sure that you really understand the plan, and today we wanted to share with you some information about the plan and bring you up to date on where we are. So going back to your specific question about how is pension administration doing, I'm really pleased to report that over 90% of benefits are processed within 15 business days of receipt of all documents. And we're also focused on modernizing the fund. And by that I mean really trying to leverage technology to improve service delivery to plan participants and retirees. So one good example of that is the digital certificate of entitlement. So retirees in this plan have a requirement every year to submit a proof of life. And historically, that process has always been paper-based. But during COVID, when mail service was disrupted all over the world, we decided to come up with an app on your phone based on facial recognition that would allow retirees to meet this requirement. And I'm really pleased to report that over 18,000 retirees are now taking advantage of this technology, and in fact it won the Secretary General Award for Innovation and Sustainability. So we still have that paper-based process, and retirees can certainly continue to meet their requirement that way. But I think it's a very good example of us leveraging technology to come up with other channels and means of meeting the requirements of the fund. Another key theme in pension administration is just on education, and to that end we completely revamped our website last year. Previously there was a separate website for pension administration and OIM, and instead we combined the two. And so I just wanted to walk you through some of the highlights of the website. One is that it is available in both English and French, so you just have to toggle the top left icon there, and it would convert all of the documents over to French language. Another tab is for clients, and this is really organized based on where you are in your life cycle, whether you've just started to participate in the fund, whether you're about to separate or retire, whether you're a survivor, so lots of information available to you there. And the resource tab is where the bulk of the information can be found, including the fact that you can view all of the forms that you would be required to submit to the fund. You can download them, and then you can send them to us via the member self-service portal. In addition to the forms, we have a series of videos that we designed last year. We've got 20 videos, various topics about the fund. They're just a couple of minutes long, so it's a great way to better understand various aspects of the pension fund. And for retirees, and we've had a lot of questions in the last week about CPI adjustments. It's that time of the year, but all the information for retirees who are interested in CPI adjustments is available in this tab. And I also wanted to highlight the member self-service portal. So this is a secure portal. You need to register for it. But behind that portal, you would find your annual statement. It's also where you can do pension estimates. So you can build different scenarios if you're retirement planning, decide when you want to retire. So it's a really useful tool. So I really encourage everyone to go through the process of registering for the self-service portal. And then finally, how to contact us. And there's obviously you could send us a message there on the left side. You just have to fill out that information, so it sends us your message electronically, or you can call us. There's actually 68 different toll-free numbers available globally. So lots of ways for you to reach us if you have specific questions.
Thank you, Rosemary, for responding to this first question. So if a participant or a retiree has a question about their personal case, where should they go to?
Yeah, so I mentioned that they're able to send us a message, they're able to call us. I also want to mention that for listeners who are staff in the specialized agencies, there's also the opportunity to reach out to secretaries of the staff pension committees. These people are extremely resourceful and very well informed on all the various aspects of the fund, so that's another resource available to people.
Great. So obviously, given the current economic and financial situation, we have received many questions about potential impact on pensions. What can you tell our participants and retirees on that?
First, I'd say that it's important to recognize this plan is well funded. The solvency of the fund, where we compare the liabilities versus the assets, it's done every 2 years by professional actuaries, and then it's reviewed by the pension board. And the last actuarial evaluation was done last year, and it confirmed the financial health of the plan. Pedro, you may have more to add on that topic.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rosemary. Yeah, of course, as you highlighted, the market value of the assets is way higher than the liabilities, right? And the explanation of that is, as we all know, 2019, 2020, and 2021 were years of extraordinary positive returns, right? Overall, on those 3 years, the market value of our assets increased more than 30% to reach a record high of $91.5 billion by the end of 2021. Of course, as we all know, 2022 was a very difficult year for everybody in the markets, and we were not exempt to that. The market value of the assets decreased 14.6%, but still we retained that fully funded ability, and the fund is strong. This year, up to date on what we have seen until 2023, we have seen a lot of volatility, but we have seen good results. Right now, the market value of the assets, it's around $82 billion, which represents a positive return of 5%. We think, Serge, that given the experiences that we have seen in the last 3 crises, we think that we will get back to that record high value of the assets probably in the next 2 to 3 years, as we have informed to our stakeholders.
All right, so that's reassuring. But then there is another worry. It's about inflation. So it impacts investments, it impacts pensions.
All right, let me just start by saying that I think one of the most important benefits of this fund is that it is indexed to inflation. So pensioners receive, where applicable, cost of living adjustments. For example, just last week, pensioners on the U.S. dollar track were adjusted 6.4% as of the 1st of April. And last year, they were adjusted 8.6%. So, beneficiaries in other countries have the option to protect their pension from exchange rate fluctuations in their country of residence by choosing what we call the local track or 2-track. However, we have found that the vast majority of retirees now elect the U.S. dollar track.
And on the investment side?
Yeah, also inflation, and of course the derivative of it, which is higher interest rates, have an impact on the value of the assets, right? And that explains mostly the decrease on the market value of our assets from last year. Inflation was very high, as you know, and that is why it contracted both the value of the bonds, the long-term value of the bonds, but also the value of the equities, right? But again, we created a buffer during 2019, 2020, and 2021 to more than absorb that one-time impact of the high inflation in present value.
So in summary, despite this situation, we are not as in 2008 when the global markets and the banking system collapsed.
Well, that's interesting because that's yet another effect that has created some volatility, especially in the last couple of weeks, right? We saw a lot of volatility in the markets, mainly coming from some doubts about the financial system, right? When it happened, we were very lucky that at the same time that those events were unfolding, we were meeting with the audit committee, with the fund solvency and the asset and liability committee, and also with our investments committee. So we had the chance to be analyzing the potential impact of those events on our portfolio almost in real time. As we know now, that volatility has decreased a little bit. We have seen a return of the returns of the portfolio to 5% positive in this year, and again, our financials are strong, right? The two measures that we use to measure our financial soundness are if we're delivering the long-term real rate of return to retain the category of fully funded, and we are meeting that. But we're also meeting the benchmarks that we set for ourselves on managing our portfolios. So we're in a very strong situation even after these events. Of course, we're very cautiously monitoring the evolution of those events. We are being very cautious in constant communication with the committees, and but up to now, we're in a very strong position.
So now that we are talking about investments, can you explain to our audience how the Office of Investment Management that you supervise invests and protects the assets of the fund?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because as you know, we, the 157 people working in the Office of Investment Management, we're both staff members of the Office of Investment Management, but we're also participant on this fund, right? So that's why we have an additional responsibility on this. So we manage this portfolio on a very professional way, following, I would say, three main values or principles, right? We embrace our fiduciary duty. We put the responsibility and the benefit of the fund and the investments that we embrace every day. We also follow the principle of openness and transparency. As Rosemary mentioned, we have been investing heavily on the transparency on our website, so you have plenty of information on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis about the performance of our portfolio and the way we invest in our portfolio, right? There is a document that is the way we communicate with our stakeholders, which is the internal policy, the investment policy statement, where you can see, for example, you can see in the slide here, how we invest our resources, right? You can see that we have 50% in public equities, 30% in bonds, and most recently we decided to, 10 years ago, we decided to extend and diversify our portfolio in private markets, right? So it's a very solid way that we invest in, and it's very transparent, and everybody can go and check at any time what is the way we're investing and the results that we are achieving. Lastly, Serge, and it's something very interesting, is how do we secure that there's proper oversight in the decisions that we make when we invest the resources of the fund, right? And what you can see there is what we call the oversight layers, right? And as you can see, and Rosemary alluded to, and in the video we saw that it all comes from the General Assembly. Right, we go every year to the General Assembly to present the results of the operation of the fund, and we go through, of course, two of the subsidiary bodies of the General Assembly, one being the ACBQ, and the other one is the Joint Staff Pension Board. Right, we're also audited almost continuously by both the external managers that we call here in New York the Board of Auditors, and also the internal auditors, which is the Office of Internal Oversight Services. We also, every year, constantly, we meet with the different board committees, which are the Budget Committee, the Fund Solvency and Asset and Liability Management Committee, the Audit Committee, and the Committee of Actuaries. We have our own enterprise-wide risk management committee where 4 times a year, we meet pension administration and Office of Investment Management to identify what are the risks that we're facing and which measures we should put in place to mitigate those risks, right? We have our own investments committee that depends and reports directly. It's appointed by the General Assembly. And finally, we have our internal managerial operations to make decisions of investment. So as you can see, and this should be something that gives peace of mind to our stakeholders, we have a very robust oversight model in place that allows us to keep this fund sound, solvent since 1949.
All right, so now turning to efficiency of the management. Can you tell us how does the fund compare to?
Yeah. So we are one of 309 different pension funds in the world, right? And there are independent organizations that their business is to compare us, the Office of Investment Management, against other pension funds, all these 309, on a continuing basis from different perspectives, right? We receive every year the report from this organization, and it's very satisfying to see that not only we are, as I mentioned before, we're delivering the long-term real rate of return and meeting the benchmarks that we set for our investments, but we also, Serge, when this organization compares us to the comparable peers that are out there in the pension fund world, our return is the same that those peers. But the good news is that we managed to get the same return with a cost 35% lower than our peers, right? So when you talk about efficiency, is we're achieving the best possible returns that will maintain the fully funded status for our fund with 30% lower cost than our comparable peers. So that's something that we should feel very proud of, and that is basically due to the fact that, as you know, our strategy is managed as much as we can of the portfolios internally. More than 80% of our portfolio is managed internally, and it's only when we really don't have the ability on a temporary basis to manage those portfolios, we do it externally. But our strategy to invest resources internally has paid off with a lower cost of 35% compared to our peers.
So we have also received a few questions about sustainable investments and what the fund does in this area.
Yes, as the video showed, right, and we being part of the United Nations family, we have a full commitment to sustainability, right? We have embraced for the last years a sustainable investment strategy. You can find in our website, as pointed out there in the screen, you can find all the details on our sustainable strategy, right? But basically, what we're trying to do is to invest responsibly and sustainably without sacrificing the profitability, the safety, the liquidity, and the convertibility of our investments, right? We work together with other UN entities, like with UNEP and their Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance to set up our net zero goals. We work also with UNEP for our biodiversity goals and investments. We work with the UNPRI also to include human rights in our investments, right? So this strategy has paid off, Serge, and we were recognized last year as the most responsible asset allocator in the world, compared to other 150 institutional investors, insurance companies, and other type of organizations. We were recognized as the most responsible asset allocator, and we have decreased the carbon emissions of our portfolio by 40% up to now. So we're very proud of these recognitions, and you can be sure that we're investing responsibly and profitably the resources of the fund.
Thank you, Pedro, for these detailed explanations on the investment side. So we have received a lot of questions about pensions, and so I'm turning back to Rosemary with one of the main questions we received. How do you become member or participant of the fund?
So generally, it's automatic as long as you have a contract with a member organization that lasts more than 6 months. I mean, there's a few exceptions, so it's best to check your contract, but in almost every case, it's automatically done.
And the next main asked question is, when can a participant retire?
So this is probably the most popular question we get at the fund, and it's based on when you actually joined the fund. So let's just walk through this. So if you joined the fund before the 1st of January 1990, your normal retirement age is 60. If you joined between the 1st of January 1990 and 31st of December 2013, it's 62. And if you joined after the 1st of January 2014, it's 65. We also get asked about early retirement age. So if you joined before the 1st of January 2014, it's 55. After that, it's 58.
Okay, so another question we have received is about pension payments, and some wonder if they can be paid in a country other than their own.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, we are truly a global fund. We're actually paying pensions in 192 countries in 17 different currencies. So it speaks to the global nature of this fund, but also the complexities as well.
And then another question we have received is obviously how can separating participants can stay in touch with the fund once they retire?
Yeah, it's a good question because, as we all know, when you separate from the fund, you no longer have a UN email address. And so as part of the separation process, you're required to complete a payment instruction form, and in that form, you give us your personal email address. It's also possible to update your email address in our member self-service secure site. But I really would like to emphasize to retirees that if you move or if you change your email address, please be sure to update the fund because it's really important for us to be able to communicate with retirees.
So a very popular question we have received also is about the amount of the future pensions. For instance, if you have worked 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, how much will be your pension?
Yes, and this is obviously a very personal question based on age, based on years of service, etc. And so I'll just go back to the pension estimate that I highlighted earlier. It's an excellent tool to be able to look at different scenarios if you retire at this date or that date. So that's a great way to do some of this planning. And of course, we continue to be here for you if you have specific questions about your individual circumstance.
So some members ask whether the fund can pay any advance payments on their pension, or if their pension can be used as collateral for loans, to buy a house, to create a company.
Yeah, the short answer to that is no. The fund was designed in 1949 to be able to provide retirement income security for UN staff in their retirement years, and that's really the sole purpose of the fund, and it's very clear in our regulations.
All right, so another question we have received is when people, participants just stop working for the UN or a member organization, if they have a break in service, if they leave for another job and then rejoin a member organization, rejoin the UN, can they keep or restore their pension rights?
It is possible, Serge, but there are deadlines involved, and so it's really important that people who find themselves in these circumstances that they educate themselves. We have a specific video on this very topic, but again, you can also reach out to the fund if you want to talk about your specific circumstances. But there are some deadlines involved that people need to be aware of.
All right, so I see that we are very much ahead of time, and we have covered most of the questions that we have received. Actually, not all of them, because they were really detailed, and we have received about 180 questions. So there will be a Q&A published on the website with the recording of this session very soon, either today or in the coming days. But then before we end the session, I'd like to know, Rosemary and Pedro, if you have final remarks, comments?
Well, I just want to take this opportunity to actually recognize the staff of the fund who work very hard every day to deliver on that pension promise. They're a great team, and I think between Pension Administration and the Office of Investment Management, we work really well together, and it's just an honor to be part of that team. And so I feel like we should close with some recognition of the people who do all the work day in, day out on behalf of plan participants and retirees and beneficiaries.
Pedro?
Yeah, no, while echoing that, Serge, and what Rosemary said is very important, but also to reiterate our commitment to transparency, right? We have completely overhauled our website. We're always improving it and putting more relevant information in the website. We're sending very frequent newsletters to all of you that are seeing us out there today, but we're also having and adding a lot of information on the website through notes, through newsletters, through updates on different topics. So from time to time, go there, read our newsletters, join us in these town halls, go through the website, see what is new out there, and let us know what else you would like us to address, right? Rosemary highlighted the places where you can get in contact with us, where to put questions, and we have full commitment on transparency to show you, and again, as the video said, to give you peace of mind that your fund is well run, is efficient, and it's safe.
Thank you, Pedro and Rosemary. So that was the first of a kind, but that won't be the last one. So there will be a new town hall meeting next year at the same time about. But as Pedro mentioned, you can stay in touch with us, reading our newsletters or contacting us through the website. So thank you everyone for your attention, and then we'll see.
And happy holidays to everybody,
Yes.
or whatever you celebrate in the coming days and weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.